As we continue on with our vocabulary practice, here are your Greek root words and prefixes. So the plan for this lesson is going to be fairly simple. We're going to jump right into it. Just like last time, I'm going to give you a few words you already know and show you how, well, they're actually just a combination of a couple Greek words put together. Then we're going to do a sample of Greek roots and exercises together. So remember, this is just like the Latin roots. Memorizing these little root words and these prefixes will make is a lot easier than memorizing a whole bunch of words. So, here are some words that you already know. It wasn't until the heart-wrenching reveal in the Deathly Hallows that readers felt strong sympathy for Severus Snape. I don't know about you, but there wasn't a dry eye in that theater. As the sun blazed in the summer sky, we watched the thermometer rise indifferently. The police shouted at the crowd through the megaphone. So, let's go through each one of these words one at a time. Sympathy comes from two Greek words, sympathos, which means with or together for sym, and then pathos is feeling or emotion. If you have sympathy for someone else, you feel what they feel. Thermometer, here's another easy one. Thermos means heat, meter means measure. What does a thermometer measure? Well, how hot it's getting. And finally, we got megaphone. So we got mega, which just means great or big, and phone, which is sound. Maybe have you ever heard of a old education system called Hooked on Phonics? Worked for me. You can Google it or YouTube to watch those cheesy old commercials. But phonics just means sound. So, let's do a couple exercises. Let's do what we're going to be doing from context and from root words to try to figure out what some bold-faced vocabulary words mean. First Greek root word is crassy or cratic. Some have cynically said that the United States is not a democracy. So much money and wealth goes into politics that it is better described as a plutocracy. So, let's go ahead and use some context clues to try to figure out what this is. All of you who took 8th grade civics, you know what a democracy is. It means the people rule. So, plutocracy, well, crassy, you probably can guess what that means. What is ruling here? Well, maybe a little bit of this and maybe a little bit of that. That's what plutocracy means. So, crassy comes from the Greek word kratos, which means rule or government. Demo means the people, oligos, the few, aristos, the most excellent, and plutos, of course, means wealth. So, an oligarchy, who's ruling? Most people or very few people? Aristocracy, who's ruling? The very best. Philo. You might know this one. It's pretty common. Bill Gates is known for his business genius, but he is also known for his philanthropy. His organizations have donated billions to charitable causes. All right, philanthropy. This is a noun. What does this noun mean? As a lifelong bibliophile, it was only natural that her first job out of college would be managing a bookstore. So, a bibliophile manages a bookstore. If you practice philanthropy, you donate billions to charitable causes. What does phil mean? Let's figure this one out. Phil, or philo, is the Greek word for love, or compassion, or good feelings. So an audiophile is a lover of sound. Someone who reads philosophy loves wisdom. Philanthropy is a combination of phil and anthros, which means love of humanity. A bibliophile is biblio in phile again, and that is a lover of books. P-H-I-L, you probably love somebody. Of course, there is the opposite of phile. We have the word miss. And there was never greater misanthrope than Lord Voldemort. We no longer call Pluto a planet. That is a misnomer. We call it a dwarf planet now. Well, I bet I can guess what misanthrope means if I know what philanthropy means. So, misanthrope probably means hatred of people. But this one's a little bit harder. Misnomer. Well, what is a nomer? Do we know what that is yet? And does this mean that we hate nomers? Let's look to the answer. Mis means bad, wrong, or hate. And if it's a misanthropic, that means you don't like people, you hate people, or you have the wrong feelings towards people. Misnomer, though. Pluto is not a planet. We shouldn't call it that anymore. That is not its name. Nomer is kind of like definition or name. So if a misnomer is a wrong definition or a bad definition. Here's another great word that you've probably heard. Phobia. Don never went swimming because of his severe hydrophobia. So what is he afraid of? The closing of the elevator doors triggered Meg's claustrophobia. Well, that does mean fear of elevators, but it means something more general than that. Fear of small spaces. He never left home, he played World of Warcraft all day, and he ordered his food delivered. This was a case of agoraphobia. So, phobia, what is this person afraid of? Well, the agora literally means the marketplace. It's used here as a word meaning any place outside in public or where there's people. Somebody who never leaves their home is an agoraphobe, and you've probably never met one, except on the internet. Here's another root word. Theos and the is a reference to God or religion. So, if someone practices polytheism, they believe in many gods, in contrast with monotheism, one God, or atheism, no gods at all. Now think back to Logi and Crassi. What does it mean to be a theocrat, to live in a theocracy or a theocratic society? Who rules? Theology. What does this study? Another Greek root word is the word chroma, which is color. So, let's think about some of those prefixes we just learned, and let's go through these sentences. An achromatic painting is black and white and no shades of color in between. A diachromatic painting relies on two shades of color like blue and yellow or red and gray. How many colors does a monochromatic painting have? So, your assignment, just like before, is to memorize the list of Greek root words and prefixes. Once you've memorized them, read those paragraphs again, go through those bold-faced vocab words, use that process again of context and root words, and then, finally, dictionary. And then write one sentence with each one of those words. If you've been doing this, you've probably already learned about 20 new vocab words, and the next lesson is going to be our very last lesson on vocab. Keep this up, you're going to be ready to, well, kind of start reading some stuff that might be a little bit unfamiliar with you. So, I reiterate though, context and root words are kind of your key to figuring out what words mean, and that will really, really help you in your reading comprehension as we continue along and start actually reading some short stories and such. Keep it up, and thanks for using Educator.